I just turned the volume down a little bit more. Still there yet?
You sound better, and if it's there, it's barely noticeable, so I should be able to edit it out in the background. Not sure what
Okay.
the deal
I
is.
just went down a little bit more on the volume.
Yeah, and you sound less blown out for sure.
Sweet.
Perfect. Good morning. I didn't even say good morning before. I'm such an a-hole. I have a cup of coffee. I think you do too.
I do. Well, I have to pour it.
What did you brew this morning?
I have got it's a Papua New Guinea from the Pinery, which
Oh yeah,
you're familiar with. Yeah,
of course, Nolan at the Pinery. We're gonna try to do a coffee with him later this fall.
Cool. Yeah, great job.
We being me, Roast West Coast, and the Coffee People podcast. I actually think my mom might have some jewelry in his shop, or will have some at some point.
Yeah, they
were
do
talking
the
about that.
creators corner and have like handmade things for sale all the time, which is I love that.
Yeah, if I'm a creator of any kind, it's because of her, for certain. And I always she's actually on her way here from Wisconsin now, and so I'm real excited to see her in a couple of days. But half of our time is just spent talking about crafting and projects, and most of that time she spends with my wife. So I'm here, but I'm not the main attraction anymore.
We
I have a
we're still on holiday
Christmas
mugs
mugs.
here. Yep, I've yet to switch back.
I have in the booth. I stick with my Prima coffee mug that I got at SEA a couple years ago. It was such a pain to get it home because I didn't have any room left in my bag, and I think I ended up leaving like some underwear behind or something so I could shove it into my backpack.
I brought this home from SCA in Portland, along
Yeah.
with it's Pure Over this, a dripper, and a Pure Over mug. And
Nice.
I wore 2 sweatshirts on the plane, and then I carried something because I didn't check a bag. I made as much room as possible. It was all delicate glass.
That is one of the things as I've gotten older. I don't have more money than I did when I was younger. I think I have less actually somehow, but I don't. I just whatever the flight that if I have to take the flight, I'm getting the nicer airline now. That's like a change in my life. I will not book the discount airline if the other flight is even close to the same price. Like I'm happy to pay the difference because it is always just worth it in the long run. I grabbed the bag because I like it so much. I don't know why you can see that in my blown out, but it's Coffee Wample's Nova Roast out of the Midwest, out of Minneapolis. And I think Coffee Wample is one word. Not quite sure. It's Sumatra, Brazil, Honduras, a blend. And I have been brewing it all week and just failing mostly. I just haven't been really getting like what I know it can be out of it. But this cup this morning might be the best. Well, I usually start with a V60, but so I did a V60 right away and was just okay. Seemed a little watery, and I think I just had my ratios off. Something was off. I switched over to a French press because I thought, well, medium dark, maybe it'll bring out some of that chocolate. No good. AeroPress, okay cup, but nothing like that blew me away. Now, this first cup today, I went back yesterday to the V60 and just started playing with my settings a little bit more because I have a pretty big bag of it. And so I dropped down to 15 to 1 instead of 16 to 1 and little things like that. And paid more attention to my pouring and my effort. And this cup of coffee is actually quite lovely. I did not have any coffee before seeing you because I wanted it to be like a true Nick and Ryan have a cup of coffee together.
Yeah. This is my first cup of the day too. Yesterday I tried this one as an AeroPress. And I think I saw like a James Hoffman video a long time ago where he was steeping them anywhere up to like 10 minutes. So I've tried that with a few coffees and I've enjoyed it. This one I steeped for probably 4 or 5 minutes before I pressed it. And it was really, really earthy, which was great.
Wild.
Yeah. This one I did as a V60, and it's much more like floral, a little bit fruitier, kind of more hot.
This when I opened the bag for this, I actually transferred them into a little storage container, but When I open that container, it just smells like peanut butter chocolate cups, like Reese's Pieces cups or something. It's just unbelievable. And I'm starting to get a lot of that today. I'm excited. Uh, oh, nice. Oh, the bags look great. The trees, I haven't seen those.
Oh yeah, these ones are relatively new. I actually dropped them off in person a few weeks ago.
Oh, nice. Those are awesome. You guys don't, do you guys do these coffee wampa ones? Should I have not shown that?
I'm not sure. I know I've definitely met the Coffee Wample folks in person. I think they were at Coffee Fest in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Actually, offhand, I'm not sure if we make their bags or not, but the name sounds really familiar.
Zach and Nicole, they're going to be on our show in a couple of weeks. And
Oh, sweet.
yeah, this bag is compostable, but then the other coffees they sent, a couple single origins, came in like cardboard, you know, not tins, but like cylinders. And they're super cool. I We're talking on video. I'm recording the video. I'm doing video in part because of my relationship with Roastar, because I felt like I had to do more, offer more, do more things to make this partnership worth it for you. But also because I like challenging myself and learning. But I have to say, the first couple weeks have been a lot of growing pains. I thought I had it like figured out and I was like ready to go. And then as soon as I started doing it for real with interviewing guests, it just like fell off the rails. So if you don't mind, I just want to list some of the problems I've run into with some of the challenges I've had with video over the past 2 weeks. Number one, do you know when you're like a kid and you have like a big thing that you're going to do, or you're going to have like senior pictures or high school, element, whatever, and then the day before you get a pimple? I'm 43. I have never had any issues with like facial acne or anything. And 2 days before the first recording, I got a huge pimple on the tip of my nose that I scratched in the middle of the night. And so I woke up the morning of my first video recording and I was bleeding from the face. And I became very aware that people are going to see me for the first time, see what I'm doing with, I don't know what to do with my hands yet for figuring it out. I kind of hold on to myself a little bit, but I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I've done so many, this is the 13th season. I've done 12 seasons without a pimple and all of a sudden pimple. So that was number one. Number two is the first videos I couldn't get, they just didn't look good. Like they weren't sharp. They kind of seemed fuzzy and hazy. And I'm still playing with figuring out the lights in this little area and stuff. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong. Like everything I was doing right. Like I had all the settings right, you know, the program I was using and testing and all that stuff. And I just couldn't figure it out. And I don't know why it clicked, because I have an older computer and I've been trying to make it last because I hate waste and I hate, you know, planned obsolescence. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what made me think of it, but I thought I'm setting my settings to record on 1080p, you know, HD. What if I don't know if that my computer can do that? I assumed it could. Turns out it's just old enough that it only offered 720 recording, like, you know, as far as quality. So I wasn't actually, it looked bad because it was bad compared to what we see every day. And so this morning, for the first time, I have a separate 1080p camera mounted onto my laptop. So we're going to see if I come in sharp enough that you can see this pimple on my nose.
All right. I can't see it from here. I also have a separate little camera on my computer. I did not look at the settings, so I have no idea. Maybe I have it set to film in 8K and it only shoots to 1080p. I'm not sure. Yeah,
it was just, I just couldn't believe, there's just so many little things. But the camera needs to be plugged in and the microphone needs to be plugged in, but the MacBooks only came with 2 ports. So this morning we're plugged in with the microphone and the camera, but the computer's not plugged in. So the battery could die or the fan could kick on. So I have a new hub for an extra port coming from Amazon today. Sorry, I'm ordering from Amazon, but it was an immediate need because I have so many of these interviews scheduled. And it's just been this learning process of like, oh, you need this and this and this. So that means you're going to need this and this and this. And you need to be prepared for it's just this cascading, figuring it all out, which leads me to number three and the last thing that I'm going to vent about, which is yesterday I was doing an interview with Bird Rock coffee legend and now owner of Chuck's Roasts, Chuck Patton, the founder of Bird Rock Coffee. I've never met him before, and I've been doing interviews all week using a different program, which I'm not going to name. We're using Zencaster today. I've used that for audio for a long time, but I was using a different program for video. And I log onto the computer, and an alert popped up, and it said, "We no longer allow your browser to use this program. You need to download a new browser and start over, setting everything up." And I was like, this has to be a mistake. I just did an hour-long interview yesterday. So I reset everything, tried again, no mistake. Overnight, sometime between my last interview and in the 5 minutes before talking to an interview I was really excited about, I no longer have a video software to use that works. And so thankfully, I, fell back onto this. I actually had canceled my Zencaster account. Sorry, Zencaster. Went on, logged on to get a quick free trial before I go through the whole process again. And we were able to get that interview in. But it was just like none of this stuff has been really hard as much as I was dreading it. But it's just all these little things you don't think of when you expand the technology you're using, or you expand, your creative output into a different arena. And I would imagine that you have had some similar experiences as you've moved into a specialty coffee ambassador role where you're figuring out what your role is.
I have, yeah, definitely. As far as gear is concerned, I've had some struggles there. I recently filmed a little interview with Dan from Cafe Domestique. I think
Nice.
you've been there before.
Yeah, Dan's amazing. I want him on the show, and for some reason it never happens.
He's so amazing. We should make that happen. But luckily he's like one of the kindest souls, so he didn't care at all. But I did not have a tripod. So as I was sitting there, like trying to keep eye contact and have a good conversation, I was holding my phone just like to the side. There was like a minute of video where he wasn't even in the frame because I had like drifted to the side. Yeah, so luckily editing was able to take care of that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, gear is a tricky thing. I do think though, not everything has to be super polished. I think that a lot of YouTube videos have become more like shot in 4K and are super cinematic, but I don't think everything has to be like that. I appreciate some of the really like raw content too.
Well, and I'm not I don't want to say I'm not a huge YouTuber. I watch YouTube to learn things when I need to, and I watch some filmmakers that I really appreciate that do a lot of YouTube things. But so much of it's just like any other platform now, where you have to wade through all this, for lack of a better term, kind of crappy stuff. Where somebody's saying, "Hey, you know what you really want to know about," and then they proceed to tell you the thing you don't care about at all, and is not what you wanted. Anyone on social media who goes, "Hey, you know what you want to know?" I just immediately skip it. I know that I don't want to know that thing. But it's just been a whole new learning process, and I just didn't realize the equipment that's available makes things a lot easier. I found I got a handheld gimbal. Are you familiar with what a gimbal is? It's a little device that keeps your cameras level, and even if you're bouncing around, that I can pair with two portable microphones, and it has an extender and it has a tripod built in. And I got it yesterday, and because I have a in-person interview for the show planned for next month at a place called Little Joy. And I wanted to be able to make sure I got good audio and wasn't just using the audio from my phone. So I wanted microphones. How can I do that? How can I make the camera setup work nice? And I pulled this thing out of the box yesterday, and within 5 minutes, I realized it was going to change my entire uh, creative life as far as doing on location interviews, because it solved so many problems. Like, one, how to station a camera so that it's set up, and I don't have to use my hands. Like, I don't have to hold it or do that like you were having with the phone. Like, the microphones that clip right on and they're kind of out of the way and you're not plugged into a million different soundboards. And it just was like, I was just smitten is the only word. You get so excited. And I realized that as much as I had been dreading this, I mean, truly to some extent dreading, like, pushing into a thing that I didn't know anything about, I feel more kind of engaged in the last couple weeks than I have in a long time. And it's not that I wasn't engaged. It's just that I had kind of figured out what I was doing enough that I didn't always have to like focus 100% because I could be doing other things. And with this, I can't. I have to be engaged. And as a result, the two interviews I've done so far, Chuck Batten and Stephanie Walter Krause from Swelter Coffee in Chicago, are, I think, both incredible conversations. And it's partly because I was super focused. I don't want to take anything away from any other interviews I've done, but it was notable to me that I was more in it in that moment.
Mm-hmm. I've felt that. I think that video carries a lot. Like all the recordings that we've done, or when we've gotten coffee in person, like we're talking to each other. But I think that it can be harder to see without the video portion of it. So hopefully, I'm excited to see those. I think
but I'm nervous that people are going to see it and go, "Oh, he doesn't look the way we thought he would from his voice." This is just like a personal, self-conscious thing. When you might be too young, but we had this thing called radio when I was a child, AM/FM radio, and you would hear these
I've heard
people
of it.
talk. They were part of your life, the radio DJs, the disc jockeys, and you'd hear their voice, for years and years and years, but you never knew what they looked like. And then you would see this person who had this rich, velvety voice, who just sounded so commanding and powerful, and it was like what you'd imagine an internet troll in the basement would look like. And that sounds terrible, but it was just, they didn't always match up, and I have very visceral like dreams and fears that that's going to happen to me.
I think I might have told you when I was on my way out to get coffee with you in San Diego, and
Mm-hmm.
I had my Spotify set to, like, it was sped up. It was on like 1.5 times speed. So I
Yeah.
was listening to your voice for like a few hours, and it was like it was like a half tone higher. And then we talked in person, and I heard your voice, and it was deeper. And I was kind of thinking, is that like the podcast equivalent of when people think that actors are taller on
Oh,
TV or in movies than in person?
yeah, that could be. And that is a funny thing, how actors are always shorter than you think. Uh, every actor I've ever met in real life is like tiny. It's this tiny person, but they have oversized heads, big heads that show up well on screen, but small bodies that can fit into weird places. That's my thought process. As I'm kind of finishing this coffee here, I was wondering if you have any any predictions for 2025 in coffee. Could be personally, could be coffee industry at large. We're going to be in a lot of the same places this year. I'm assuming SEA and some coffee fests and just kind of traveling around. I'll be back home. Uh, Anything that you're seeing in the world as you've been talking to people that you think, oh, this is what 2025 for coffee is going to be?
Yeah, it, I think a reality is that green coffee is the most expensive thing for roasters to buy, and it's obviously not getting any cheaper. So I think, as far as everything is concerned, price is going to be still top of mind for a lot of people this year, which is a good thing, and maybe it always should be. But the most expensive thing for roasters to buy is only getting more and more expensive. So I think that price will be a driving factor in a lot of decisions. Sustainability is something that we're always thinking about. Hopefully, other people think about it as much as we do. But we, like right now, the past week or so, I've been sending out some samples to a few select customers to trial for a curbside recyclable bag, which
Oh,
isn't
cool.
available yet. Stay tuned, I guess. But
Yeah.
some kind of exciting sustainability developments there.
One of the main topics that I talked about with Stephanie Walter Krause of Swelter was she has this thing called the Zero Waste Club, in which she custom made, I think handmade maybe, silicone food safe bags so that when people order coffee as part of the Zero Waste program, she ships it to them in these bags. I'm very aware of how I say bag when I talk to you, Nick.
Sorry, I pointed it out once.
So they and then they can take it, dump it, and it comes with like a little insert, tells you about the coffee, just like a package normally would. They can dump it into their own container, whatever container they like, and then send the bag back. And at least as far as the packaging goes, she then sanitizes it, reuses it, ships it out again. And we talked a little bit. One, it seems like a simple concept, but just the logistics that go into making sure that it's food safe, legal, meets certain health codes and permits, and all of that stuff. But also just the process of like, hey, if I ship this reusable bag, will it hold up? Will it manage the pressure of being shipped? Like air pressure changes. How will it impact? Does the coffee stay fresh in it? All those little things that she had to figure out for herself, because there really wasn't, there's a lot of people doing, I think a lot of people trying to do little things like that, but they aren't connected, and there aren't bigger companies that kind of organize that sort of program for them yet. And the alternative being is you go and buy like a local bulk bin somewhere, but then you don't really know probably the quality of that coffee.
Yeah. I mean, I think to like grocery stores with my mom when there's like the big coffee grinder and there's
Yeah,
different flavored coffees, everything going into it, and like the little dispensers, which I think there's a better version of that could happen for like reusable containers. Like I know Airscape and all those different fellow makes one.
yeah,
I think that's really great. I mean, I have seen like at the cafe level, beyond kind of packaging whole bean coffee, there are more and more like reusable cup companies coming in. Um, the name has escaped me. Good to go cups, I think it was, is a little
hmm
bit more in the Midwest, and they do like they approach coffee shops and for free they give the cups to the shop. So there's nothing else for the shop to take on, but then it's on the consumer, and it works with either an app or something at the POS to instead of taking it in a paper cup or plastic cup, you can take it in a reusable cup and then bring it back.
sure, yeah,
I think there's a chance for more things like that to come up, but also even just at the cafe level, instead of just assuming that somebody wants their coffee to go, asking a question of, do you want it for like, are you going to be staying for a while? Do you want it for here? Most of the time, if I go to a shop, I prefer to sit there and drink it. So I don't really like drinking my coffee while I'm sitting in the shop out of a paper or plastic cup. I'd rather just be asked, are you going to sit here?
yeah. That is something. It's a pet peeve of mine because I have learned when I order my coffee, I always say for here. And if I'm not taking it for here, I usually have. If I'm, my wife's car, there's 5 or 6 coffee cups in there of varying levels of cleanliness that I'm sure fine. Uh, but there's a coffee shop, the closest coffee shop to my house. Uh, I probably shouldn't say that too much because people could find out where it is, and then they'll find out where I live. And, who knows. But there's a coffee shop that I can see from my house, and they've been there a couple years. I don't go there, and it has nothing to do with the coffee so much. The atmosphere is actually great, outdoor patio and kind of a nice grassy area for the dog and shade. They do not offer any sort of for here products like at all. So yes, I could bring a coffee cup with me, but it bothers me that they don't even consider it. They just say, no, we'd rather it's easier for us just to throw everything away. So if I were to go there and order an espresso, the espresso comes out in a little paper cup, like you'd take your medicine at the doctor's office with, which is just not an enjoyable experience. And then it also comes with a plastic cup filled with a little bit of seltzer water, and then it all comes on a like a sugar cane esque, technically compostable tray and a napkin. So now I've got 4 pieces of waste just to have a shot of espresso, and it bothered me so much. I just was like, and it's going to be like I can go another 2 blocks. Like I'm not so lazy that I can't, and just sit and have a cup of coffee in a nice clay thing because it's something that's important to me. And uh, I think we all have little things that are important to us with this experience. And uh, for me, being able to sit and enjoy that coffee the way that you do is one of the best parts of it. The coffee is great usually. Most places do a pretty good cup of coffee at this point. Uh, Only so many places do cups of coffee that stop me in my tracks now, but that's because the bottom, the low end has gotten so good. So the experience part is a core thing, and that's my prediction for 2025 is that more coffee shops, one, will consolidate and will either be acquired or combine forces with other coffee brands.
I mean, we
To
saw that this year quite a bit too.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more of that because of just one, it's a hard business to be in every day. It's a 7-day a week job if you're running a cafe, uh, or it can be. I mean, you can always be a better delegator than I ever have been. But I think the other part of that is you're going to see new coffee shops or new coffee roasters, new coffee people popping up, offering very specific services. They're not going to try to be the coffee shop for everybody, the full menu, pastries, place to sit, the whole thing. They're going to be very specific. And our thing is we do this one thing really well. And here's our cool vibe or our branding idea that we like or that fits our needs. And especially with the younger entrepreneurs, I think they'll be more specific to catering to their style. I think we're moving out of that pallet wood and kind of container, style, and maybe even getting smaller. A lot of very small shops, I think, will be in our future. Uh, some of my best coffee shop experiences are non-traditional, but as I'm looking at places that are kind of on the forefront of trends, when you like Japan would be a great example. You find all these like little coffee shops that are probably not much bigger than this little booth I'm in, and they're amazing because the thing they care about, the thing they focus on, is that coffee.
Yeah, I think one of the best coffees I had this year was the espresso that we had. And you'll have to remind me the name of the cafe. Really small. There wasn't
Necessity
really
coffee?
any, not necessity. Necessity was fantastic though. It was a very little spot. Not really even anywhere that you could walk inside of hardly.
Oh, that's Little Joy Coffee. Drew is
Little
the
Joy.
guy there. Drew and Ryan own Little Joy, and yeah, it's just a walk up, and then you kind of sit out wherever you can find a spot on the sidewalk, or you got a little patio, and
And
let them
we
know.
had it in real glass cups. It wasn't in a paper cup,
No,
but we got to still like be outside and enjoy it. That was that was great. Just the walk up, super simple. I don't really remember them having a huge menu.
no, it's like 5 things, like
Yeah,
everything. That's actually where I'm doing that first in-person interview is at his place, which was somewhat intentional because of its size and because of its location. His wife runs a little wine tasting space out of the back, and so we'll be able to have a shot of espresso and then maybe taste some wine. So I'm excited about that.
awesome.
I'll leave you with this question, which is I saw a headline this morning, and I wrote it down even. Uh, AI develops artisan coffee, gets rave reviews. If AI is developing the coffee, who is the artisan?
The growers always need to get credit. The farmers. in the processors. Is AI their AI is developing the roasts, the
I
roast curve.
my understanding, I didn't get too deep into it because those kind of headlines are provoking, but it was that they essentially asked a AI program to develop a coffee on their own. They put in the coffee and then just entered the data about it and the specs, and then it kept repeating and adjusting and repeating and adjusting until the AI decided the coffee was done, and that was the roast profile.
I don't think AI can taste it. I think somebody needs to taste it to verify how it's doing. If it does well, that's awesome. I did see a an article about an AI. I think it was built into a grinder where it had like a handful of different single origins, and you'd kind of give it some prompt on what you're looking for, like what your taste is, and it would. There's a kind of a doser at the top of the grinder, and it would actually cut like drop beans to make a custom AI developed blend for what you're
Hmm.
wanting, just for like that single, whether it's espresso or however, to make like a
Oh
custom
boy,
blend. So
I
I'm curious
think
how that works too.
yeah, I think I'm an analog guy in a digital world, Nick. I'm gonna just put that out there. I may be
I don't think
43,
any of
but
those things.
I feel
I don't
80.
think any of those go in my 2025 predictions. I mean, I've been seeing for like a couple of years now the robot arm that will do the espresso shots. I don't think that's going to steal any jobs this year.
No,
It's cool
there
to
is
look at.
a Las Vegas cafe that is solely robots, only robot arms. I don't know
Okay.
if it's any good. I haven't been. I wouldn't know who to tip, and I would feel weird if I didn't.
You have to tip in Bitcoin, I think.
Well, then I'm definitely not going. There was a guy who bought a bunch of Bitcoin like early on, like in the first months of Bitcoin being a thing, and saved his Bitcoin code onto a hard drive, and then it got thrown away into a landfill. It was on a hard drive that is like they were clearing out or moving, and it got chucked. And he spent the last like 6 or 7 years like suing the city for permission to dig up the landfill to find it. And apparently, the Bitcoin that he had on there, which he bought for a couple $100 at the time, is now worth like $700 million. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
he's
By
just
the
this.
landfill.
His full time job is like trying to figure out how he can find this hard drive, and he's essentially, I think he's getting supported by other people who will get a percentage if he does, right? Because otherwise, how would you not work? But
That
just
is the most modern day treasure hunt I've ever heard of.
oh my goodness, it's incredible. And I was thinking, like, even if he finds this hard drive, like, one, it's in a landfill. It's probably got like spaghetti on it or something. But two, just knowing what I'm going through with video, like, well, I mean, he's going to have to find something that takes like that type of cord. I feel like no, Macs aren't taking original USB cords anymore, so you're going to have to figure it out. Uh, anyway, anything I missed today, Nick, that I should know about your life?
I'm
I just
excited
fell
to
into
drink
the
some.
I fell into the habit of leading a show there. That wasn't my intent.
No, I'm really excited to see kind of how coffee grows in 2025. Drink some great ones. I've already had some really good coffees this year, but the number of new roasters, new cafes I see pop up every day is just crazy. It's exciting. So I'm looking forward to drinking good coffee. I did recently get the decaf project,
Oh, that's right.
and with that alongside Bryant from Relative, he has a couple of really great decafs on his menu too. I've been scaling back the caffeine and been super excited about decaf coffees this year. So I'm excited to see more kind of in that realm too.
Who did you get your decaf from?
I got my decaf kit from Talking Crow Coffee Roasters. They're
And
kind
they're
of
great.
yeah, they're really great. They get their main bags from us also. They're awesome. It's
Oh, I
a
didn't know
husband
that.
and wife team.
Yeah, they were up in Washington, moved down to Arkansas, and then ran into a bunch of like permitting things and kind of were delayed. But I saw they were doing the decaf project, and I think they like were promoting that they had the last unopened decaf project box in the
I went
country. So
on
if
to
you missed
buy
it,
I
yeah,
went on to buy my box, and yeah, I looked because I know there were a couple of coffee companies that I was familiar with that did the project in the U.S. But yeah,
Mhm.
the entire list across the world, I think that Talking Crow was like the last one with a box left. So I got one, and then shortly after that, they posted a giveaway for the last box.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool thing. I mean, the the idea that people are being connected through coffee in an event around the world is I think the whole point. I think they did a great job with developing that program, and cheers to James Hoffman for it. I mean, it's and all the decaf, providers. It's just to me, it's kind of the best of what coffee can be on a big scale, and then at the same time, like this Saturday, I just put a post on social media just saying, "Hey, I'm going to be at this lifeguard stand, and I've got a bunch of coffee. If you'd like some, you can come and have some with me." And I assume, always it'll just be like me and like one other person and the dog. But the response has been pretty incredible of people just going, "Oh, this is awesome. This is what I want to do on a Saturday morning, and just have coffee with somebody, at the beach." And I think those are things that are available to us, whether it doesn't have to always be the beach. It could be, at the park, or it could be wherever, the local coffee shop. And sometimes it's just so much easier just to stay home under the covers or watching a show or not engaging. For me in particular, I'm definitely a controlled introvert. I like to control my extroversion into the world, and to remember that, hey, these are things that you can just do whenever you want. You can just meet up with people or put it out there that you're willing to, and the world will hopefully give something good back to you. Now, I wouldn't recommend it if it's like someone on the side of the road near a prison. That's a different thing. Like, don't engage. Uh, but
Don't engage.
if it's coffee somewhere, but maybe if it is, if it's maybe they just want a cup of coffee. I don't
I've got nothing on that point.
know.
I probably don't engage.
I think this was a pretty good first cup of coffee in 2025, Nick. I'm imagining on the screen it's going to say Nick and Ryan have a cup of coffee, and then I put the coffee cup up or something.
I mean, that's what we're doing. We're having a cup of coffee. Mine is about gone.
Yeah, actually, mine is too. I need another one. I think I'm going to go to steady state actually, just to do it.
Well, yeah. Thanks for having coffee. Thanks for everything that you put out into the coffee world. I listen to as much as I can. You were my top podcast for 2024. If you didn't see, so I
Spotify
do listen
Wrapped.
quite a bit, and it's just great. I think that the stories you share, the people you talk to, I mean, there's a lot of overlap. I know quite a few of the people you talk to, and just aside from hearing them on your show, they're great people, and you always seem to find just the best stories and people to share with the world. So, thank you
Wow,
for what you contribute. Really,
that's very kind. I hope you don't say that at the end of every show though, because it'll make me very uncomfortable. Thanks, Nick. I'm excited about what comes next too. I'm gonna